if society flipped the script and said, well, we don't need women, it's like all the women feel disempowered,
Yeah.
to be frank, right? So for men, I think that it has changed because society has shifted away from this idea that masculinity is a positive thing, right? They've gone in this direction that it's toxic in some way.
This is a man who doesn't just talk about the work, he lives it. Please welcome Kipp Sorenson. Welcome, brother.
Thanks for having me on, man. How do I help others? Right? And we weren't addressing that part, right? We're just focused on self, right? And I'm like, that's the natural dispensation, I think. The natural dispensation is, I think our Creator intended us to get right with ourselves, to figure us out, so then we can do the ultimate thing that I think He wants us to do, and that is serve others.
My guest today is a man who has built his life around one mission, transforming men into leaders they're capable of becoming. Based in Salt Lake City, Utah, Kipp Sorenson is the founder of Lead Stronger and the Lead Stronger Collective, a mastermind built to turn managers into authentic leaders. You'll know him from the Order of Man platform, where he's a trusted voice in their Ask Me Anything series, helping thousands of men work through the real stuff: discipline, resilience, ownership. And when he's not in the boardroom or on the mic, he's on the mats. A Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner who clearly applies the same discipline into all aspects of his world. This is a man who doesn't just talk about the work, he lives it. Please welcome Kipp Sorenson. Welcome, brother.
Thanks for having me on, man. Lives it. Let's go with tries to live it and chooses to try day after day. How's that?
And it's interesting that you bring that up, because that is one of the things with a lot of men these days, is that we consciously know what we need to do, but that word "live it" is another word for embodiment. But embodiment is something that's quite hard to come by these days. Can you speak into that?
Yeah, man, I love that language, right? The embodiment of it. I mean, I don't know. You tell me what your thoughts are. I'm curious. But when I hear embodiment, I move to the difference of being, not doing, but being. And it's interesting over the years working with men, with the Order of Man. It's not uncommon, right? We'll get self-development guys. Actually, let me illustrate this way, if you don't mind. I'll back up 1 second. I think most society operates in the space of having. If they have what they need, they will do the action, and then they will be happy. They will be fulfilled. The problem with that approach is have is outside of your control. So they sit back and wait to have the perfect wife. They sit back and wait to have the right boss and the recognition and have these things. And if they do it, then I'll show up. So they end up just being powerlessness or helplessness in their state of being, because they're waiting to receive. That, I think that, generally speaking, is society as a whole. Then you get people that want better for themselves, right? They want to accomplish, they want to achieve things, but it's still not 100% there. They will focus on doing. I'm going to run that marathon, Lucky, and then I'm going to have the results, right? And then I will be happy. Then I'll be fulfilled. Then I'll have confidence. And what ends up happening is you end up having a lot of high achievers in that space. They get after it in life. They're financially successful. They have the house. They have the cars. They have these things because they think having them will let them be fulfilled, that it will cause happiness. And it never does. And so they keep chasing. And so when I hear embodiment, from my perspective, it is being first. Be, I do, and then I have. And the have is just a byproduct of how I'm showing up in the world, who I'm choosing to be moment after moment, and acting on it. And maybe it results in the cars and the nice house, maybe, but it doesn't matter, because I am choosing to be a certain way in this moment.
I love that. The have, and the biggest thing from what listening to you is everything is a byproduct of what you're currently doing, and living it, embodying it with full on, because when you're in the embodiment phase, you're fully present in doing what you're doing, and everything is facing north. And it's just such an alignment with self when you're able to recognize the embodiment of what you speak into and what you actually do, that everything just comes in alignment and say, this is me. The byproduct of that is the nice house, the nice cars, and the fulfillment that comes with that. You're not even seeking fulfillment because of the alignment that you're in, because you're fully present in what you're doing. But when you're not fully present in what you're doing, you're seeking the byproduct that you haven't yet received. So it's,
I love it.
Sorry for, just pulling you. I just need to speak into it because I love the term of living it and really fully embodying everything. But, tell us a little about what you do, and how you came into the space for both men and women.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do think it plays a role. Not that I'll like make this backstory about Kipp Sorenson, but born and raised on a dairy farm, actually in small town Utah. Really funny. If there's one lesson I learned leaving the farm, it was I didn't want to farm. My whole focus was some job where I'm not going to destroy my body, right? Because that's what my dad did, is just wrecked his body. And so I was just like, computers, office job, right? Sounds great. Not really thought through much, but regardless, it was a good choice. Ended up in the tech space for a number of years, had a consulting background, ended up having a consulting company, which I sold to my competitor. And then I've been working with my competitor for roughly about 8 years. And I really didn't get into the leadership space, kind of a convergence of multiple spaces, right? I was like, man, I'm going to be a better guy. So I latched on and joined Ryan Mickler with Order of Man. And then I started in this space of growth there. And then at the same time, at work, I ended up stepping down from running a consulting team to being responsible for people and culture. And it was a really fascinating move in the sense of I was kind of challenged with this idea of, well, how do you drive culture? Like, how do you do that, right? Like if you have a company of 200 employees, how do you make an environment where they love to show up? They want to do their best work, and the company in alignment with that is successful. How do you make that possible? What's the human conditions? What's the psychology that makes someone love their job? And then better yet is what makes a great leader, right? I kind of fell into it. I had lots of opportunities to lead throughout my career. And to be honest with you, it just kind of worked out. I love my team members. They ended up loving me, and people said I was a great leader. I didn't read a book. I didn't take some courses. And so being in this position really forced me to address that too. It's like, well, what makes great leadership? And more importantly, what is leadership? Because I actually think in society, we have this massive misunderstanding of what leaders are. And we latch onto this idea that there's a hierarchy, not a role, a hierarchy, and they're above. And that was one of the first distinctions that I disrupted was leadership is not, let me say it this way. When I say leadership, I'm talking good leadership. Bad leadership, that's not leadership. In my definition, that's called management, right? That's managing things. And you think people are things. That makes you a manager. But a leader does not put themselves above anybody else. In fact, a leader is someone who has chosen to take on the mantle of responsibility of helping others grow and to create opportunities for them. That's leadership.
Yeah.
And some people want it and some people don't. And then there's a bunch of people in a leadership role that shouldn't be because they don't want that. They want to validate themselves, right? They want to feel more important. And because of that, they'll unrighteously hold that position.
Leadership is, you've been in the space for a while, so you would have come across a few different types of leaders. And tell us about leaders that have needed a bit of guiding and molding towards the good side as opposed to leading with their ego. Have you come across those type of it's more talking about men in the space of their ego is leading them because of the power that they've just newly received, and then kind of guided them in a way to like see the bigger picture and not just them.
Yeah, totally. I think the first distinction is that if we don't address self, then the natural dispensation will be that you will use leadership from an unrighteous perspective. If I lack confidence and I haven't addressed my ego, and I am not very humble, and I'm constantly trying to think I'm better than anybody else, the impact of that as an individual contributor, right? The impact of that as just an employee is, let's say, 30% impact on the team. Kipp's kind of difficult to deal with. He's constantly thinks he's better than everybody else, but he does his job and we all put up with it, right? That's the impact of me not addressing self as an employee. But you take me as a high performer with those problems and then put me over a team. Oh man, the impact just shot up to 80%. People start hating their jobs. In fact, it's the number one reason people leave companies. Number one reason. It's their boss. It's who they report to.
Yeah.
And what's crazy about it is the statistic, at least in the US, is 82% of people that get promoted to a leadership role received zero training around leadership. What happens is we see a guy, let's use sales as an example. We see a sales rep that sells really good. And we go, hey, do you want to be over the sales team? And they're like, yeah, sure. Progression, pay increase. Yeah, he doesn't have no idea how to inspire people. He doesn't has any idea of what makes people tick. He doesn't understand intrinsic motivators, the importance of caring for people. None of that is that. He's a task master. All he knows is how to do the job, and he gets in that position and tries to control everybody. And it becomes what I call an enforcer. An enforcer really just tries to control people through command and control culture, through forms of manipulation and blame.
Yeah.
And then now people are just compliant. They hate their jobs. They'll do just enough to get you off my back. And then when the hour's up at the end of the day, I go home, hate my job, and I want to quit. Awesome. Not effective for the company. So that self-leadership is critical.
Yeah.
You have to address self. And in my opinion, man, if I were back in the position that I was in a few years ago, that's probably the first thing I would have implemented is an assessment, a self-assessment of individuals from a psychology perspective of how they address self around personality, beliefs, and attitudes. And if they don't pass that, you don't get leadership capability. You don't get a leadership role. I don't care about what you're capable of doing. Attitudes and beliefs and mindsets matter more.
Yeah. Yeah. It's 100% agree. And that was, like speaking into leadership, I was in the military for just under 10 years, and leadership in the military is quite easy. Well, it was from my perspective back then, because when you get told to do something, you never questioned it because of the hierarchy of things and the amount of shit that you'd get in if you didn't say yes, because everything was
survive.
Yeah. And then moving into the leaving that and coming into the roading industry, the leadership had to change in a way where, well, these guys were allowed to have an opinion. They were allowed to say no. They were allowed to talk back. And I'm like, oh, this is fucking weird. This is like, how dare you respect the rank, so to speak, kind of thing. And that was something that I burnt myself out, because I didn't need boundaries in the military because everything was quite militant. Do this, do this, do this, do that. But coming into civilian world, it was like, got to answer their questions when they say why. And I said, well, did I not tell you to do so good enough? So navigating that, and then burning myself in the aspect of, I need to keep him happy so he can do this job. And if he's happy, then I can do him. But then he's happy here, but the other guy's not happy there. And I was like, this is a massive juggling act. But finally, the boundaries started to go up and all that stuff. And like all humans, they just like, okay, this is who he really is now. I can live with that now that I know who he truly is, not the performer that we saw in the first instance. You would have come across quite a few of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know what the other leader is? Because we have to talk about the other side of the coin. Because, someone might be listening going, oh, no. I don't act that way with my people. I don't enforce things. I love my people. make things easy for them. And that is rescuing.
Yeah.
And what's great about the rescuer is it's all out of love. Well, it's because I care about them. But in the space of caring, we have coddled them, robbing them from growth. They become victims. So let me give you an example, and to tidy up these two concepts, and we'll move to maybe parenting, because I think parenting is like the ultimate leadership role that most of us have.
Yeah.
So as an example, the standard is clear for my kids, right? What is a clean room? And if I came home and the room's a mess, my natural instinct is to move into enforcement, right? I raise my voice. I've told you guys all, time and time again, I'm tired of this crap, right? And I'm operating emotionally, probably adding meaning to it, that they're doing this because they're lazy. I'm being judgmental. It's because they don't respect me. So now I have a heart at war towards them. Not good for the relationship. Now the enforcer, it works. Does the room get cleaned? Absolutely does. It does get cleaned. But what do I have to do tomorrow? The same thing. And the day after, the same thing. And eventually my relationship with my daughters erode.
Yeah.
Dad doesn't care about us. He cares about the room, right? He's a taskmaster. We're all just avoiding him, right? Because he doesn't genuinely care about us. Theodore Roosevelt has a quote that I really love, and it's that no one cares about what you have to say until they know how much you care, right? We'll listen to people when we know they care about us. Now, the flip side is the rescuer. And that would be typically moms, not to be sexist, but it is what it is. Moms are a little bit more rescuing typically than dads. And the rescuer would be, oh, girls, your room's a mess. It's okay. I'll clean it for you. Go hang out with your friends. It's fine. I'll save it. I'll do it for you. But what we rob the children from doing is what? Owning something.
Yeah.
Doing something difficult. Experiencing delayed gratification. Right? It's going to take 2 hours to clean this room. But and I know through experience that after the 2 hours, do I feel great? I do feel great because I accomplished this thing and I built some confidence that I could do hard things and I get the reward. All that gets robbed from me with my rescuer mom, and gets robbed from me from the persecutor or the enforcer. Why? Because I didn't clean the room for my own decision and commitment. I did out of compliance, out of fear. Now, what's interesting about both of these leaders, and let's use parenting as an example, both parents are focused on what? Cleaning your room.
Yeah.
Is that the role and responsibility of a great parent, is to ensure that rooms stay clean in a home? No. Right? Our job as parents is what? Raise a kid into an adult. Give them the lessons that will allow them to be successful. Well, both scenarios, both parents aren't focused on the strategic long-term outcome. They're focused on the short-term win. And because of that, they lose sight of the bigger picture. And so in corporate America, do we do this? Yeah, absolutely. It's about the project. Oh, I'll say the project. It's about this month's revenues. And you can't multiply. You can't scale at that. Both leaders are stretched thin. They're exhausted, having to maintain everybody, save everybody, get everyone to do their jobs. If it wasn't for me, none of this stuff would happen. Yeah, it wouldn't. Why? Because you've created dependent people and you've stopped focusing on developing people, which is the only way to scale as an organization.
I 100% agree with that, especially on the parenting side, robbing the children of their right to learn life lessons, life skills. And because we tend to focus at times where, especially as parents, like when you're a new parent, you're like, I don't want my kid to go through what I went through. So we coddle them.
But we want them to learn somehow. You tell me how that's possible.
Yeah. That's it. That's exactly it. And it's such a profound thing. I want to kind of move into the direction of the way men are leading in today's society. You've been in the industry for a while. I've been in male-dominated industries for a very long time, and seeing the the evolution of the way men are leading and the way they're not, for both at work and at home. Can you speak into your world?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting. I think at the root of this is the idea of what makes men tick. Deep down, what is it that drives men to level up and find fulfillment and meaning and purpose? And I actually think it's in service.
Yeah.
A slogan that we use is that our core responsibility as men is to protect, provide, and preside. Protect, provide, and preside. All of those are service oriented, right? I think it's godly. I think we're intended to serve. So when that gets robbed from men, whether self-inflicted or robbed from social constructs or other scenarios, they don't do a very good job. You know what I mean? Leading, they lose purpose. In fact, I don't know if this is a case for you, but this is a really common thing, at least in the US, with guys leaving the military, is they lose a sense of identity, right? There's this purpose of them serving a country. And then all of a sudden they lose their purpose. You get social constructs that say men aren't needed. They're toxic and we don't need men anymore.
Yeah.
What are a lot of young men supposed to do with that? Right? When their natural, I think, genetic makeup says serve and you are needed. And so, and to be frank, I think that goes both ways, right? If society flipped the script and said, well, we don't need women, it's like all the women feel disempowered, to be frank. Right. So for men, I think that it has changed because society has shifted away from this idea that masculinity is a positive thing, right? They've gone in this direction that it's toxic in some way, like it's a choice, right? And I think our masculine elements of what makes up men are very natural, and they should be celebrated just like the feminine should be celebrated. And they're not the same, and they are different. And unfortunately for a lot of us, we've had a lot of bad examples of masculine men. And because there's lots of bad examples, then, it gets coined as being this toxic thing. And we don't see what strong masculinity really looks like, rooted in service, right? And that's the other element I'd love to call out, not to derail a little bit, but presiding. Presiding is leadership, not dominance, not command and control, not thinking you're better than. It's presiding. It's service. It's servant leadership. And good leadership is through influence, not control. Right. And we've misunderstood that for way too long.
Yeah, it's interesting what you've been saying, and I 100% agree with it. Men are purpose built, women are love led. And with what's been going on in society nowadays, well, in the world about men, a few good men are doing obviously the real bad shit, but all of men are wearing the pain from what they are doing to the woman. And this is causing a lot of shame and a lot of withdrawal in regards to how do we show up now. I was listening to Alison Armstrong the other day, and she turned around and said, women are becoming the men they want because of the fear of what's coming through from the younger generation. And I 100% agree, because to a certain degree, the men have just stopped trying because they all get tarnished with the same brush. But at the same time, this is where we go back to the very beginning of our conversation, being self-led, not participating in the worldwide shame, but just say, hey, that's them. This is not me. I'm going to stand up for what I do, and I just carry on doing what I do. And that's going to have the ripple effect across the world, like exactly what we're doing now. We're not taking on anyone else's shame. We're just standing in our power, doing what we need to do. And one thing I want to circle back to in regards to leadership, and this is something that I found in the military, is that when men became problems and they were uncoachable, unteachable, they got promoted. Have you seen this in the corporate world?
Yeah. I have, unfortunately. Well, and it's because we lack courage. To do the right thing. Yeah.
It's an interesting way that moves, and how we try to pass the buck, because there's so many lines in the sand that we can't cross. We got to do everything right, especially in your industry with HR and corporate and all that stuff. You've got to dot your I's and cross your T's. You've got to use the appropriate language, because everything can be twisted and manipulated in a way that it hurts both parties.
Yeah. But you know what? It's fascinating to me. In fact, I think we mentioned this in our last conversation. There's a study that I read. Geez, it's probably been almost 10 years ago now, but it was a study around physician malpractice lawsuits. And in that study, it pointed out the number one deterrent to a malpractice lawsuit isn't quality of work, right? So we're talking about physicians, right? Doctors being sued. The number one thing that reduced the amount of lawsuits against them was not the quality of their job or how they did their job. It was likability. And let's be really clear. You don't like people who don't like you, right? So what are we saying? You didn't get sued when people thought you cared about them. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
And so in corporate America, what do? Oh man, we don't want to get lawsuits, right? So when an employee is not doing well, we'll put them on a PIP. We'll keep all this documentation so we don't get sued. How about you just treat them like a human? How about you just have some dignity?
Yeah.
And stop worrying about the red tape and all the policies and all the controls, and actually just do the right thing and see people for people. You do that, I'll guarantee you that will reduce more lawsuits against your company than some policy or red tape or having a lawyer write up agreements ever will. And even when you implement those policies, right? Like, what do they feel like? Oh, let me have you sign all these paperwork. Lockie, let's sign all this stuff. You're like, what am I getting into? Right? Like, can't we just like agree to do the right thing?
Yeah.
So I don't know, some lawyer's listening is losing his mind with everything I just said, but there's a study that backs the idea that how we treat people matters more than anything else.
Yeah. Let's take this to the mats. I'm interested about your jiu-jitsu journey. How did you get into it, and how can men relate? Should they get onto the mats to help with the leadership?
Yeah, absolutely. So, man, I remember, I'm old enough. I remember in high school, one of my buddies, his older brother came off a church mission. And I don't know if he got these on his mission, which doesn't say a lot about him, that he'd have these bootleg VHS tapes of UFC number 1 and 2. But I'm not sure. A lot of people don't realize this. And maybe I'll give just a quick little story. The first UFC was done in Colorado on an Indian reservation because it was illegal to do anywhere else. Okay. Yeah. And it was a bracket system. So you would fight multiple rounds in one night, and it was tournament style, right? So you'd win like 3 fights to have the championship belt. You fought multiple times in the night, right? No gloves. You could groin strike. You could pull hair. You couldn't bite. And you couldn't eye gouge. Wow. Other than that, you could kick a downed opponent, and there was no weight classes. So you would have a guy like, literally there's like a sumo guy in there on one fight against this like skinny white karate guy. Like, it's just wild. It was just wild. But this is the part that no one knows. UFC was started by the Gracie family to showcase jiu-jitsu. They wanted a platform. Yeah. They wanted to create a platform to prove that jiu-jitsu was superior. So they put the first UFC together, and then they had Royce Gracie, one of the smaller Gracies at the time. If they wanted to like showboat, they would have put Henzo in or someone else, but they put Royce in, which is probably, I bet at the time he's like 160, 170. Right. And anybody that was a martial artist at the time was like, holy crap. Like back in the day, man, the refs didn't even know what was going on. Right. They're just like, he's tapping. We don't know what's happening. Right. Like there's no names for anything. Like they have no idea what's happening. And Hoist just walks through, this small guy walks through and destroys everybody with all these submissions. And then of course he does it again in UFC 2. And I think even in 3. But my point being is that's how this all got started. Most of us never knew what jiu-jitsu was until the first UFCs. And then all of a sudden you heard this term for the first time, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And you're like, what is this? Right. And that's what put jiu-jitsu on the map. And so I saw those old VHS tapes. And of course, like every other boy, I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. I want to do that. And then I prioritized school and university. And it never happened. And then in probably 06, 07, maybe 08-ish, I moved back up to Utah and my buddy had been training. He's like, dude, come train. But here's the lesson is I said yes to training because why? Not because I knew some benefit to the martial art, right? I trained it because of maybe some peer pressure from a buddy. And to be frank, because I wanted to sound cool and say I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? And what you learn in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is you learn at getting really good at losing. That's what you learn. And then people who stick it out, they got very comfortable being uncomfortable and losing over and over again. Because everybody that got on the escalator ahead of me, the jiu-jitsu escalator, they can still kick my ass. Yeah. Nothing's changed, right? I've been training for 17 years. I still get beat up. How's that possible? Well, there's better guys than me. And that doesn't change. It never changes. And so what's interesting is if I held on to the badge of like being a tough guy and like being able to, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. If I held on to that, I would have quit because you have to confront yourself, right? On the mats. The term we use in jiu-jitsu is the mats don't lie. There's no hiding on the mats. Other martial arts, you can kind of hide, right? You and I, we could do some mitts and some boxing drills and you could hit the bag really hard and we might all watch and go, oh man, he's good. But jiu-jitsu, until you box someone, we don't know really how good you are, right? But day in and day out, in jiu-jitsu, we roll with each other. We all know who's better than each other, right? You know the pecking order. You can't hide it. And when you first start, guess who can beat you up? Everybody, including the 110-pound little lady, right? Yeah. She's like a spider monkey and she's choking you out, right? It's like you have to swallow your pride and go, I don't know this. And all these people are better than me. And if I want to learn, I have to accept that. And am I willing to? And this is why the dropout rate of jiu-jitsu is so high, because most people can't face it. They don't want to face the idea that other people can have ultimate domination over them. There's nothing they can do about it. And that's a hard pill to swallow. Yeah. Right. And so anyhow, that's probably the biggest lesson I would take about it. It ended up not being about the badge of saying I do jiu-jitsu. Eventually it wasn't about the belts anymore. It was about the mental benefit of being in struggle and confronting your emotions. Right. And it's so, man, it's so powerful. This, in my opinion, this is the best thing about jiu-jitsu is when you have a good training partner and you're going all out, right? And you sense, right? You know when someone's trying to hurt you, right? Like you can feel it. You're like, oh man, he's angry and he's trying to hurt me. That generates all kinds of emotions, right? Anger in me and frustration and retaliation, maybe fear, concern, like you're flooded with all these emotions and you have to deal with them. And that's the biggest benefit is regulating our emotional state and dealing with being highly uncomfortable. And anybody watch this, man, go to a jiu-jitsu gym and watch how the black belts roll. You think they're sleeping. They're like calm. There's no aggression in them. They're just super kind of chill most of the time because they're not being triggered by what other people are doing. Now they'll still dominate. Don't get me wrong. They're not passive and they're not, they're not rescuing people on the mats. They'll still dominate people, but they're doing it from a calm state. And that's what's super, super awesome about jiu-jitsu.
And pulling that super calm state into corporate world, to whatever type of leadership role that you have, once you can master that, response from a calm state, it's universal, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I could write a book on this, but like even interesting principles, right? How much do you weigh?
We do kilos. So I'm 120 kilos.
Oh man, we have to do math for that. Okay. So I think I'm 90. Is welterweight's about 90 kilos, I think.
Yeah.
Right. So you probably have 30 kilos on me. Right.
Yeah.
Physically, am I able to force and move you? No. And jiu-jitsu is not about that. Actually, I couldn't move you. You push me, I push you, you're pushing me down. Right. Unless I use other tactics, there's no strength to strength ratio where I win. So what we learn in jiu-jitsu is don't control people. If you come at me hard, I'm moving out of the way. I'm moving me. I don't move you. I move me out of the way.
Yeah. Wow.
Right. If we're training on the bottom, I don't push you off me and then move. No. I make a little space. I create a boundary, a frame, and then I move myself within the frame. Fundamental principles are just transcendent, right? Don't force people. Let them do what they're doing. You control who? Just you. That's the only person I have control over. And so I move me into situations, and then opportunities present themselves, right, for me to advance based upon my movement, not based upon what you do.
Yeah.
Does it make sense? And there's elements of that just constantly throughout jiu-jitsu that are just transcendent, right?
Yeah. And everything you just spoke into is exactly how we should lead.
Yeah.
It's like listening to you kind of pulled me into the direction of leadership, but you're just talking about jiu-jitsu. I said, this is so relatable in these two different worlds. And it comes down to self and the discipline that we have to be able to come from that calm space and remove ourselves, not anyone else in our world, because we are our own world. So once we move ourselves, and particularly styles and stuff, then everything else falls into place.
And what's interesting about it is we will find ourselves as a parent or as a leader in a place where I can use control. Oh, I can move my kid. I can rob them from choice. Right? Oh, I'm in a position of leadership. I can fire you. I have control. I can dictate and rob you of agency and choice, but it's short-term win.
Yeah.
And eventually you'll lose that game, right? So we get these false sense of authority that undermines our ability to influence people. And if we're not careful, we'll use them unrighteously, right? And so we have to remind ourselves is not just as that in our example, that principle is the only way, right, for me to train with you.
Yeah.
But that's also how I should train with my 7-year-old son and let him move how he wants to move.
Yes.
Right. And that's the mantle of leadership is when we are called into a position of authority, that we use it correctly.
Yeah. So speaking of the position of authority, how are you helping leaders in the corporate world?
Yeah. How do I do it? Or what's my framework to it? Or
services
that I offer?
If you don't mind touching on the framework and how you get them from A to B in the leadership context.
Yeah. So my leadership framework is actually broken into 2 phases. So phase 1, which we've already covered, is self-leadership. You have to address self. If you can't address self, you have what's the term I'm looking for? You have no right to be in leadership. And it sounds dramatic, but I'm like, shame on you for even willing to take on that position if you haven't addressed you.
Yeah.
So phase 1 is self-leadership, being a man of character, having compassion, taking ownership of your life, and seeing the value of growth and having a growth mindset. That's kind of at the core of it, right? Character is a very broad statement, right? There's lots in there, including integrity and stuff. And then phase 2 is, once we have that tackled, how is it that we really lead people? What's the right way to do it? What's the effective way to do it? And I call it lead stronger. And the LEAD stands for the core responsibilities of leadership. L is you need to love your people. You need to see them as the divine individuals and humans that they are, because from that we can influence them correctly, right? And for their betterment, and honor them and their choice. E is an environment that wins. It's your responsibility as a leader to make sure that the environment that I hired you into allows you to win. Yeah. And often we don't do this. We hire people and we're like, hopefully they win. And then we're not doing our part and we're making it harder. Man, I remember we had a great leader. This is a couple years ago. He was just a stud. This guy, high performer. He was performing. His team was performing. On paper, he's arguably one of the best leaders in the entire company. And I had a conversation with him. I'm like, hey, dude, why did you leave? Like, what was it? And he goes, you know what? He's like, you know what the number one barrier to me being successful was? He's like, the company was. The company made my job hard. Wow. Now, in spite of it, he made it work. But the company wasn't helping them. Companies make it harder and harder for them. Why? Overly bureaucratic processes, a bunch of red tape, right? Like all this crap that we constantly throw into organizations. So anyhow, my point being, environment that wins, right? That's the right people in the right role, metrics, clarity, cadences of accountability, et cetera. Right? That's the environment. A is we need to be aligned around vision and focus. We have to be rowing in the same direction. I can't have a guy in my canoe rowing that way while the rest of the team's rowing this way, right? And we can't have multiple canoes going different ways, right? We have to be aligned, right? And that's aligned around values, right? And of what we say is important and the vision and the focus of the organization, as well as, and this is key here, because any small business owner, hear me out here. If there's a CEO listening to me, trust me, okay? Your employees do not give a crap about the successes of your company like you do. Yeah. And you can throw a mission together and values and say, I want alignment. No. That's not what I'm talking about. Alignment is you doing your job and understanding that the employee that works on your team, what's important to him? What are his important rocks that he's focused on? And how does the seat that you've put him in help him achieve what's important to him? That's alignment. They're not going to be bought into your cult organization and be fully aligned. No, they have other priorities. It's your job to know what they are, so that way you can align the position to what's important to them, right? Yeah. And then D is develop and foster growth. There's this theory called self-determination theory. And self-determination theory teaches that an individual will be intrinsically motivated to achieve more when there's 3 psychological things being met in their life. And I think this is transcended to like a much broader conversation. But the first is autonomy. Second is relatedness, connection. I'm part of a tribe. I'm part of something. I have strong connection and relationships with others. And the last is competence and growth. People are engineered to operate with autonomy, to be part of something, to have a relatedness with other humans, and to grow. And so as a leader, we need to develop and foster growth so there's fulfillment in the work that they're doing. This is why you get people hating their jobs, but they do the same thing day in, day out, and it's worthless to them. And they play small because they're not growing. They're not being challenged, right? And that's something that we need to address as leaders as well. So love your people, an environment that wins, align vision and focus, and then develop and foster growth.
Yeah, wow. And the leaders that you've created and helped along this way, this is more of a corporate environment, but you obviously get to know a lot of them, especially the men. do they take these same concepts at home and take it home?
Oh yeah, dude, that's the best compliment I ever get.
Yeah.
Because let's be frank, in most cases, it's a company hiring me, right? So they're not hiring me to fix things at home, right? They hire me to help them achieve outcomes at work.
Yeah.
But the best compliment I've ever gotten is, hey, because I do follow-ups and surveys, with people who attend our programs. And the best compliment is when I get this is great. I've seen the effects at work. We're improving. We have these outcomes, all that. And a byproduct that I didn't realize is this has helped my relationship with my kids. This has helped my relationship with my spouse. And that's how, for me, that's how I don't know, get fueled with what I do, is because when it starts showing up on Sunday at church and it shows up at home, then I start going, whoa, this isn't just about leaders. Right? This is about leadership, period. How we lead in our communities, how we lead in our homes, how we lead, how our politicians should lead, right? It's all of that, and it's transcendent, and one thing I really love, and this concept came together because I noticed in Order of Man, we'd have guys that always came in first with a focus on self, right? Oh man, I need to work on me. I need to work on me. And then I saw this transition happen where once they got right with self, then they like kind of look back and they're like, how do I help others? Right. And we weren't addressing that part, right? We're just focused on self. Right. And I'm like, that's the natural dispensation. I think the natural dispensation is, I think our Creator intended us to get right with ourselves, to figure us out. So then we can do the ultimate thing that I think He wants us to do. And that is serve others, which you might just use the word, love thy neighbor.
Yeah. Oh, 100% agree. And that's such a beautiful thing because the industries that I've come through, military and road construction, men are more, it's all majority is men, but the men, when they show up at work, they have this whole different persona about them where they are free to hold their boundaries and speak their truths. But when you hear them, when they talk about family life and all that stuff, they don't want to rock the boat.
Yeah.
So having that ability, like coming through your leadership programs and stuff, it's home is a byproduct of what they're picking up at work and having the confidence to take it home. And therefore, there's no more masks to wear anymore because they've been accepted the way they show up because they're standing and leading within their truth. And that's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, they can be concurrent with themselves, right?
Yeah.
Authentic. Yeah.
And it'll be so exhausting. I used to do that. It was so exhausting walking on eggshells at home and being the man at work kind of thing, like made good decisions, good leadership and stuff, but I couldn't lead my own house. But once the transformation came within self, it just, the world slowly merged into one and there was nothing left for me to perform, or no one left for me to perform for because I was just who I was naturally.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, that's the classic, no more Mr. Nice Guy syndrome. You know, it's like, it's exhausting if you're trying to manage everyone's perception. Just get right with yourself and lead and honor choice, right? You might have people that may not see it for you, right? They may not like your way of showing up or whatever. And that's their choice.
Yeah.
And let them, the leaders they're not tumbleweeds, right? We're not tumbleweeds in the wind. I'm not sure if in New Zealand you have tumbleweeds. Do you have tumbleweeds? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes. Yeah, we do. Okay. Just a little bit, but not as,
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, tumbleweeds, wherever the wind blows, they go, right? And that's what you do when you're not being authentic and leading, is you're just being pulled in 100 different directions, trying to appease everybody. It's exhausting.
It is. It's exhausting and it spills out in other areas of your life. And that's
totally.
It's
Let me ask you this, because I find this interesting. I had this thought a couple of years ago about men that work a lot. That's a common thing you hear, right? Oh, they're always working. And I can't help but suggest that that's a possible red flag, because why are we working? And we'll shroud it underneath, well, it's because I got to provide for my family. I think in some cases men overwork. Why? Because that's the space where they feel respected.
100%.
And they're not feeling respected at home. And so they work more because they're choosing to be somewhere where they want to be, where they would rather be based upon how they feel. Right. And I'm not saying that so all you guys feel like, oh, I'm a victim, I'm not respected at home. I'm saying change the way you're showing up at home so you are respected is what I'm suggesting. But
100%.
maybe a possible red flag. You agree with that?
Oh, 100%. It's avoidance. Work is
that's right.
Well, work is easier because one, you get paid, and you can justify that pay to justify you being there, and not being at home, and not being present. Everything that we are trying to avoid, we can justify with every excuse. So when the partner turns around and goes, oh, you're always at work. Oh, because they need me, because this makes more money, because we justify it to the kids. I'm at work so you can get nice things. Do you like nice things? So we basically gaslight our children to feel bad. So
you want it bad, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah. We just tell them, we squeeze them in a box to fit in our perception of life because of what we're trying to avoid. So we just got to keep putting our hand up to say yes, miss out on life. And all that you're going to know is Dad always worked. He was always at work.
Then we get to feel sorry for ourselves.
Yeah.
Because I sacrificed all this for them.
Yep.
Woe is me. And then I get to wallow in my misery as well.
Yeah. And then the dads get upset when they find out their son is following someone on the manosphere and seeking his values. He's outsourced his needing for leadership to the internet.
Yeah.
So
totally.
It's time a lot of men stood up and like really own their shit. They can own their shit at work because work is a safe space for them. Because they're good at their job, 9 times out of 10, they won't get pushed out and all that stuff. They can say what they need to say, and it's all within the confinements of a safety. Yeah. But they're too scared to take that back home and actually lead. Like, you don't have to be an asshole at home. You just got to be able to communicate effectively and probably with grace.
Yeah, totally. Have you read the book, The Boy Crisis?
No.
I would. It's fascinating. Dr. Warren Farrell is the author. I'm going to slaughter this, but you'll get the point. So no one hold me to this exactly. But if I remember correctly, he was appointed to the Obama administration when Obama was in office in the US to address gender equality. And as a result of that effort, while being part of the White House administration, he came to the conclusion that we don't have a gender equality against girls. Instead, we have a boy crisis. And the whole premise of this book is boys are graduating school substantially at lower rates than girls. Less boys are going to college. More boys have failure of launch issues. More are going to jail. Like, his whole premise is we have a major problem, at least in the US, with boys. And his whole book is kind of the research around why, right? And part of this is fatherless homes, no man in the home. So they don't have positive role models. The other part is inequality and mixed messaging, right? A hot topic. I don't know if I dare touch it. I'll touch it. But like a hot topic around gender equality is, we're all equal, but until draft day. Okay, wait, you're part of a culture that will celebrate you dying for it. Your life is dispensable. But you're equal everywhere else, though.
Yeah.
Right. Super inconsistent. Right. Yeah. We teach boys not to be boys.
Yeah.
One of my oldest sons, he has a lot of medical issues. He actually has Usher syndrome, legally deaf and blind, and is autistic as well. And one would argue that he has ADHD. And I remember when we first met with the doctor to get him diagnosed, right? And I joke around about it now because knowing what I know now, I probably would see this drastically different than I did when in my 20s. But as he explained what ADHD was and autism, I was like, am I autistic? Right. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, you just explained a boy to me. Right. Like those are all the traits of boys. And he was like, actually, and they give me some statistic about the majority of kids that have or that are autistic are actually boys. They're not girls. Most of them are boys. And you look at probably the misdiagnosis of ADHD and autistic, and we're telling boys to act like girls. Don't be rowdy. Don't be aggressive. Don't have energy. Be quiet. Don't be a boy. Yeah. Right. And society has neutered boys and their desire to be masculine in any way. And then we demonize it.
Yeah.
And then you wonder why they're not showing up powerfully. Well, there you go. Right. And so anyhow, that book is a great book.
Yes.
Around and kind of, statistical analysis around the crisis around young boys. And I don't know if he approached it from a worldly perspective. It's really just the US. So I don't know how valuable that is to your listeners, but nonetheless, it's fascinating.
Oh, I think it's highly valuable. I'll be looking in to read that book as well. It is something, it's ground level. Like, I've got daughters and I've got a stepson. So it's just paramount that we set these foundations, because I know for myself, if I was to die tomorrow, that my daughter has an understanding of what my values are and start seeking them in a partner should she pursue. Okay, this is what my dad used to do. This is what I'm looking for because he was safe.
Because you're the model.
Her nervous system has calibrated to the way I act around her. Because she's 12 years old. So this is where she will feel and remember everything from when she was 7. So, like, if there's any man out there listening, is that your kids will learn, one, from their mother and their father, what their nervous system feels safe around. And they will carry that all the way through to their adulthood. And that's a whole different conversation we can have there. But
they get to unwrap. Yeah, they get to unwrap all the things you did wrong.
Yeah.
Once they're adults.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful thing. Here is definitely a must do for boys, because we are in a society where they're trying to remove the warriors from the forefront and just have compliant, complicit men.
Yep.
So,
which, back to our thought earlier, self-determination theory, autonomy.
Yeah.
Right. Being critical. Right. And you can't rob people of agency. Otherwise you get compliance, but it doesn't work.
No.
Yeah.
Well, it's been an interesting talk there, Kipp. I really do appreciate your words of wisdom and your life experience. Where can the listeners find you?
Yeah. Man, Instagram, social media, right? The spelling of my name is probably a little bit different. It's Kipp, KippSorensen. So you can connect me on LinkedIn or Instagram. And then our Lead Stronger framework, that website, you can learn more about those leadership workshops and the programs that we do at goleadstronger.com.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I'll post all these links and stuff once this is set up. But yeah, thank you for your time. But before we go, there's the one question I like to ask all my guests is, the podcast itself is called Project Man, Voices Reshaping the Journey of Men. For any men that's listening, potentially sitting on the fence, what would you say for them to start learning? Because every man is a project within themselves. So what would you say to kickstart the journey?
I'm kind of a stick kind of guy. Like I get motivated by the stick. So I'll give the stick, not the carrot.
Yeah.
It's really easy for us to determine the probable future. So I would self-assess. How's my marriage? How's my relationship with my kids? How am I showing up at work? And what's the probable future if I don't make pivots and adjustments and grow? And that might be a hard answer, right, that you may not want to confront. Because a lot of our natural tendencies to wait and hope, right? We wait and hope that opportunity will come along. We wait and hope that maybe our wife will show up differently. The reality of it is no one's saving you. Those things aren't going to happen. So what's the probable future if you don't cause change? And if you don't like the answer to what that looks like, then dude, start acting. And to how we kind of kicked off this conversation, start being. Don't delay it. Or, I want to be healthy. No, okay, be healthy now. Just be healthy right now. Yeah. Not tomorrow, not in 6 months, not after you run it. Just be it. Oh, I want to be a more loving father. Then be a loving father right now. Be present in the moment, right? And be that man. And I think this is important to know. This isn't about perfection.
Yeah.
There's no such thing, right? It's not about perfection. It's about choosing it over and over again. It's a choice right now. Integrity, it's a choice right now. And again, right now, right? And it's always a constant choice. And so I'm a huge believer that our pasts, let me share this. Sorry, I want to share one more thought.
Go, please.
If you don't mind, is happiness. Let's say we're all seeking happiness, right? A life of fulfillment, meaning, and purpose. I'll call it that. We do it through three simple steps. The first is a healthy relationship with our past. And someone might be listening going, well, I don't have a healthy relationship with my past, right? I look at my past and it's not a healthy relationship. This is how you have a healthy relationship with it. You learn from it. You learn from it so well that you can't help but be grateful for it because it forged you into the man you are. That's how you have a healthy relationship. So if there's something in your past you don't like, learn from it, baby. The minute you learn from it, you'll be grateful for it. Okay. So healthy relationship with your past. Number 2, hope for the future. What's possible? And that's in creation. You can create it. Start creating what the future is for you. And then the third is being present in the moment. And I think that's where gratitude sits, right? And fulfillment is how great life is. I have stresses right now in my life. Fair enough. And just yesterday, one of the guys that I train with, I found out that he has had an open heart surgery today with low survival rate. Being present is me going, I got my hands. I got my health. My kids are healthy upstairs, right? We have food on the table today. We love each other, right? Like that's being present. And man, we have so much to be grateful for, but it requires us to be really present in the moment.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Well said. Well said, Kipp. Thank you very much. Big love. Look forward to, I'll probably want to sit down with you again.
Yeah, dude.
There's so much more we can talk about, and it was getting juicy to a point. We were getting off topic, but now, and we were able to dial it back, but I'm here for that juiciness, and I think the world's ready for that juiciness as well.
Yeah. Anytime, man. I'm grateful to be on. Thank you.